Hello everyone, this is Natnarf signing back in again, and welcome back to True Remembrance. Now, we left the hospital after... we have left a part where we went to the hospital the second time. So, La's a little bit better, she got her new set of medicine, and now we don't know where we are. So, let's go back. That night. Okay, we left at that night. That didn't sound right. I leave my room quietly and head downstairs. I proceed slowly. Don't want to make any sounds. Don't want to wake Black Iris up. I'm like a little mouse. Moonlight streaming in from the curtains. The living room is full of stolen light. But the living room's full of stolen light. And he's fast asleep on the couch, as usual. I kept asking him to buy a bed, but he always gave me some excuse. And never bought one. He's so stubborn. I know him so well. Know him so well that I can't help but smile. I distance myself. Don't want to wake him up. Can't get too close. I watch his sleeping face. I can feel the tears. Oh, you're crying! They're running down my face. It's not because I'm sad. I've been told that this is a reflex. I just cry. Can't control it. So I don't try. But this is bad. I can't see in front of me. No matter how I wipe my eyes. Okay, sorry, I can't read that. I want to see him. I want to see his face. I want to remember. But I can't. Because I can still hear what he said to me. Each one of us makes a choice. Somewhere, somehow. And once that choice is made, then we remember. Or we forget. It depends. This is my choice. I can't think of another way. I'm sorry. What did your professor say? Good girls say goodbye with a smile. I'm so sorry. If that's true, I'm not a good girl. Yep, you're not. And so, goodbye. Oh, I should have not stopped there earlier then. If I knew that was gonna happen. Well, that doesn't matter. It's always alright, to be sure. I dreamed about the moon that night. It was pale and cocooned in wispy clouds high up in the dark. I peered up at it, or it peered down at me. I couldn't really tell which. It didn't really matter. The echoes of its songs danced in the empty spaces, beyond the rustling of leaves and the tinkling of snow. It was soft, so soft. I shouldn't have been able to hear it. And yet it did. I knew this melody. I knew it by heart. I knew it so well that it filled me up and drowned me from within. I could not breathe. So I clapped my hands to my ears. I don't want to hear anything anymore. But it was too late. The sound kept coming, seeping between my fingers and into my head. There was no escape. It was beautiful, filled with tears. La. Now we're getting to the heart of this story. We're getting into it. Sorry, I just went to have a little snack and a little drink. Because I was a little bit hungry. So yeah. Forgive me and my fatness. Yee, cheese. Yes, I had cheese with. So anyway, I got up off the sofa. And everything was still pretty hazy. Really hazy, not pretty hazy. Sure, I wasn't a morning person, obviously, but it was particularly tough today. Oh, don't get me wrong, I wasn't in a bad mood or anything. You're always bad mood, you know? Just... part of me was still dreaming, or at least it really felt like it. I couldn't focus on anything. I kept feeling Like I'd been listening to someone singing. Aha! See, there's the part where everything's gonna start to get interesting. And I kept feeling like La had been close beside me. So La had to been given. So La had to have been the singer of the song, right? Except that was completely impossible. This was Maria's song from so long ago. Maybe that's why I felt so ill at ease right now. I got up off the sofa and quickly, before any more unwanted thoughts rushed into my head. There were sounds coming from the kitchen. Rather, there'd been sounds coming from the kitchen ever since I'd opened my eyes. I could smell eggs and toast being cooked up. It was wonderful. I was starting to get really hungry. That was kind of unexpected. La, you didn't usually get up early enough to cook breakfast for me. I walked in the kitchen and sure enough, there La was. Frying pan in hand and a big smile on her face. Okay, good morning. Hold on, isn't it? Good morning. Her voice was cheerful and her smile was warm, but her eyes were puffed and red. Obviously, she'd been crying again. Take a seat, please. Let's eat before it gets cold. Eggy. So she could see that I was worried about her, obviously. But she kept bustling about cheerfully as if nothing had happened. This was her way. I'd learned that much in my time with her. As if you're old, man. Always dancing and sidestepping in order to make sure no one had to fuss over her. But this was not in its own way the most silent hypocrisy, for she fussed over each and every person around her. We took coffee after our meal, as had become our tradition. Now, ever since our first time there, in the Aroma, thank you. Tissue! She'd been taking lessons from Rook at Aroma, which was why she drinks. It's just why the drink she offered me grew tastier and tastier by the day. Sorry, need to have a tissue by my headphone because I'm always sweating for some reason. The funny thing was, she never drank the stuff herself. It was always some form of milk for her. If I had to guess, I'd say that was because she was painfully aware of how short she was. Don't discredit that thingy magic. Silly, of course. She could drink all the milk in the world and it wouldn't help her in that regard, but still admirable in its own way. I took another sip. Silence filled the room. I wanted to ask her about the song. It didn't seem possible. How would she know about, much less be able to sing, that song? But still, just ask! La? She looked up at me from her mug of latte milk. Hot milk. I was at a total loss for hers when her eyes met mine. How exactly was I going to explain this? I didn't see any way I could do so and still manage to keep Maria out of it, which meant... No, never mind. Okay. Sofia was curious about what I'd been about to say, but she didn't probe any further. This was part of what made her such an ideal guest. She knew when to stop asking questions. Yeah, that's right. She was my guest. It was high time I started treating her like one. So I took care of the cleanup after breakfast. Now, I was in the middle of doing that when I opened the refrigerator. And wow, we were almost out of food. We'd have nothing to eat at all if I didn't go shopping soon. Hey La, I'm going to go grocery shopping today. Would you like to come? Oh. Actually, I think I'll pass for today. I almost dropped the plate when I was washing when I heard it. It wasn't like glad to be evasive or her to refuse to go out. I had never seen her behaving this way in all the time I've known her. First breakfast and now this. No matter which way you sliced it, I was in for an interesting day. Still not feeling too well? No, I'm fine. It's just, well, there's obviously have to be some reason for why she'd become so tongue-tied this morning. Why I decided not to press her on it. I mean, I certainly had days when I didn't feel like going out. Why couldn't she? Sorry. And she really did look sorry, so I smiled wearily, shook my head, and said, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'm your guide after all. I'm supposed to do things like this for you. Besides, to be totally honest, I kind of wanted to be alone. Ouch. I cleared the table and washed the dishes after breakfast. I could feel La's eyes on me as I buttoned up my coat and wrapped my scarf around my neck. When I opened the door to leave, I turned to find her smiling back at me weakly. She did something to you. She did something to you. The sky outside was gray and the clouds were ready to burst. I would be lucky if I managed to finish shopping before the snow started falling. I walked toward the trolley station. Every so often, strangers passed me by. There was no one at my side. It had already been a month since La had first come to town. Enough time to forget my solitude. Enough of her to forget that I'd ever walked these streets alone. That was just a problem. Nowadays, I was getting increasingly impatient just being around her. Oh no, I'm not saying that I was getting annoyed or bored. Far from it. But whenever we weren't making small talk, we were just sitting in each other's company, reading books. Aww. We were cut off from the outside world, draped in total silence, but for the occasional turning of pages. But there was one thing I could always count on. If I were just to call her name, she'd always answer me, with a big smile on her face and warmth in her eyes that could thaw the iciest heart. The problem here was, I was getting awfully used to this. I couldn't understand it. How did she become this much part of me? Thus, the impatience. That's why I was making a concerted effort to treat her as my guest. It'd be days, or weeks, or even months. But she'd be leaving this town sooner or later. That was what she wanted, right? Otherwise, why would she have come to this godforsaken place to begin with? If we simply kept going on as we had, then parting was going to be awfully hard. Hard? For whom exactly? You! She'd be leaving this place with her memory of it entirely deleted. Nothing hard about that. Better stop thinking about this. In any case, I was at the station. No point in wasting any more time in useless pondering. Once I boarded the trolley and took a seat, I decided that I'd take a scenic detour. After all, it's gonna take me all of the 30 minutes to do my shopping. I did particularly feel like returning home that early. So where to? Speaking of which, I haven't been back to my apartment on the 5th in an entire month. I cleaned the place right up before embarking on this assignment, but there was probably a layer of dust an inch thick everywhere by now. Might as well make an appearance there. A few minutes later, the trolley arrived at the 5th Street station. Now, 5th had a few things in common with my old hometown. The spidery roads and the twisting alleyways, for instance. But the difference, and this overshadowed everything else, was whereas the city was dirty and black with soot, this one was clean and white with snow. I swear we're talking about Mary Poppins land. Pretty soon, I was standing in front of my apartment's door. I dug into my pockets and found my key. This had been sitting inside my coat for how long now? For a month. Oh, your bedroom's not bad. Yeah, your bedroom's not bad at all. Look at that. I actually wish I had this kind of room. You even have a bird cage. Sorry. I went inside. The lights were off. The curtains were shut. And the interior was dark. Sorry. There's a fine film of dust everywhere. But otherwise, things were actually pretty neat. I sat down on my bed and closed my eyes for a bit. 3 years. That's how long I'd been living here now. And yet I felt no attachment to this place. No rush of emotion, no feeling of homecoming. Just my bed and my desk and my books and a bunch of bric-a-brac, that I didn't care much about. I go frick-a-frack, not bric-a-brac. But then something on the wall caught my eyes. Wait a second. What was this doing here? I mean, this is a nice one-piece dress, Very cute, very well made and all, but it stood out like some alien artifact in my barren apartment. I didn't remember buying it, for sure. Maybe someone had delivered it here on mistake. But if that was the case, wouldn't they have just left a delivery note instead of unlocking the door and coming in? That didn't make any sense. But I didn't have any other ideas. I was at a loss for what to do with it. But I knew what I wouldn't do. Throw it out. Might as well leave it here until the owner came back to reclaim it. After all, I wouldn't be living here until my work with Law was done, and no one, least of all me, knew how long that would take. In the end, I locked up and left, with the dress still on the wall. I didn't know exactly what time it was. No working clocks in town, after all. I didn't know that it was still well before noon. So I did not manage to burn that much of time at all. The steeple of the old church caught my eye when I stepped outside. Now, given all that had happened, the sight didn't particularly fill me with joy. I had nowhere else to go, so hey, why not? The streets were all but deserted. Strangers passed by each other in silence. Their footsteps babbled on concrete and mud before they too were forgotten. Fifth was always this way. Not that this came as any surprise. People of my profession lived here. And so long as we were on an assignment more than we were off, this would continue to be the cities where memories came to die. Now, there was another church in town, on 2nd Street. It's much newer and larger than the one here, so most guides took their religious guests there and not here. Eventually, the number of people who attended this church dwindled down into nothing. Now only the building remained, and it too was falling into pieces. Oh, the same church. I opened the door and went inside. I used to come here quite often in the past. Annalie once lived here. I visited him often enough. Well, not quite. Given his position, the guy probably had a mansion somewhere. He too just came here to kill time, probably. And really, it wasn't much to kill time as to take care of this cute little kitten who had made this place her home. Wait a second. Right. The cat that used to live with me. She was Annalise to begin with. I just gave her a place to stay for a while. Where'd she go after Annalie died, I wonder? This church was where it all went down. Annalie, the cat, the gun. My memories of that time were vague as best. The emotions weighed down so heavily that even if I were to try to recall exactly what had happened, I'd completely fail. I do remember this though. I didn't hate him at all. It was difficult to pull the trigger. I remember that too. Annalie's dead. And so is Maria. I couldn't tell you what she and I were to each other. Maybe we were lovers. Maybe we were just acquaintances. Didn't really matter. I never said a word to her about what I felt for her. Aww, so sad. And she never said a word to me either. What use was there in talking of tomorrow in a city that had no future? Only a fleeting present and a dead past. I think that's how we felt back then. That's why we let the future go. Because we knew that it'd melt away in our hands if we even reached for it. Well, to be fair, that feeling hadn't changed very much over the years. But back then, Maria was my life. Aww. I probably would have died in the dark alleys of my old city if it hadn't been for her. No one would have known I ever existed. This was all ancient history. I wouldn't even have been thinking of any of this if it weren't for that dream. Such a bad dream for such a splendid dawn. No wonder my morning today was a mess. I sat on one of the benches and closed my eyes. Time passed, but everything inside of me was quiet and still. And abnormal. If I came home like this, La was going to be worried sick about me. She knew me too well by now. I could just see her looking up at me, her eyes wide with alarm. No way. I was going to suck. So I finally stood up and walked out. I started walking towards the trolley station. The clouds were as heavy as gray as ever, but the snow hadn't started falling yet. Might as well catch some lunch at Aroma and go shopping after that. I hope La would be able to fend herself back at home. So sad. There was someone quite unexpected at Aroma when I got there. Is it... is it Lips? Well, no, not really. It was quite expected, but it was kind of a shock to see her. I knew it! Welcome! Aha, Black Iris! Rook shot me a sheepish, awkward look as I walked in. So I turned my attention to Lips, who was standing right next to him, cleaning the countertop. I knew it. Well, you see, kinda dangerous to make her hole up in her apartment till the heat's off her, so I'm hiding her here. Any problem with that? No, and of course, Jackal's here too. Uh-huh. Look at that! Oh man, it was funny. I nodded. But man, it was so funny. So funny. Watching him get flustered this way. Made me want to laugh. Come on, dude. Wipe that evil grin off your face already. I didn't do anything wrong, I swear. And I agreed with that. He hadn't done anything wrong at all. In fact, I'd say that for the first time in his life, he'd done something right. Lips, in the meantime, had polished the countertop with such relentless fervor that it now outshone It's such relentless fervor that it now outshone the overhead lights. Thank you. Now, I couldn't read her as easy as a good law, but it was pretty obvious that she was feeling pretty embarrassed too. I almost forgot. Here, this is yours, I believe. I took her gun out of my pocket and handed it over to her. She almost dropped the rag she'd been using to clean the countertop in response. You've been walking around with this in your pocket this whole time? Well, it's not as if I wasn't guilty of doing the same thing, but what am I supposed to do with this now? Point. But I'm in the same situation here. So let's see. Why don't you ask Rook to dispose of it for you? He's good at that kind of thing, after all. I was lying. There were a million different ways I could have disposed of the gun, but this one was the most interesting, you see. Rook cleared his throat with exasperation. I watched him as he began preparing to brew some coffee. You son of a bitch! You come back here! This was getting more and more entertaining by the second. Looked like I made the right choice. Hey, tell me, what's been going on with ya these days? I haven't seen you around these parts in forever. Oh, right. Well, I got pretty sick for a while, so now it was my turn to get all embarrassed. It was richly deserved, too. Only the most sloppy guy would let his guests catch a cold in a matter of that idea. Man, how could ya? Rook just shook his head slowly. Lips, on the other hand, looked at me apologetically. I'm so sorry. This is all my fault, isn't it? Oh, that's how. Hey, all ends well. Hey, all's well that ends well, eh? Poor La. See, don't start scolding on me, you idiot. It was nice and all of them to say that, but in the end, it was still my fault that she had gone through all of that. I'd have to be a lot more careful with her from here on out. She's doing a lot better though, eh? Shopping up for stuff right now? No, she's actually at home. Look and Lips look at each other, then back at me. Obviously, this came as some kind of surprise. I was getting a bad feeling about the expression on their faces, so I asked, what is it? Huh? Well, we saw her just a bit ago, right? He turned to Lips, who looked bewildered for a second but then nodded. Yeah, I saw her around the trolley station when I went out to buy some dishwashing detergent. She was far away, and on top of that, she was already in the trolley, so I couldn't say hi to her or anything. I thought you were with her anyway. Just at the station? Alone? Lips shot me a strange look. Something in between a frown and a grimace. Too bad. There was something she wasn't telling me. Maybe she didn't want to say it, but I wasn't about to back down either. The staring match continued. Again with the staring match! For some time, but finally she sighed and said, your superior was it her? Dexter! Not you again! They just met yesterday at the hospital. Really? Unless something happened while I was gone to get her prescription filled. Maybe they just bumped into each other? Pure coincidence. Rely on Ello, you know? Perhaps. Why would you go out without me? This is obviously his clumsy way of making me feel better about the situation. So I nodded, but in actuality, staying in this game long enough and you'll know that there's no such thing as a coincidence. There's no way that Dexter could just have coincidentally come around here to shop. You incidentally bumped into line, coincidentally bowled the trolley with her. In other words, Law had pulled some fast one on me. She stayed at home in order to meet up with him. Yep, you were tricked. Damn it. I was in a particularly foul mood when I finally left Aroma. I had no idea what was wrong with me today. All sorts of unwelcome thoughts were clawing their way into my head. It wasn't about the news I heard at Aroma just now. Well, obviously I was worried about that as well, but right now I had more pressing matters. Like the fact that I've been walking around in a blaze ever since dawn today. Great. Every single time I tried to focus, things slipped out of my grasp. I wasn't in any condition to go shopping right now, let alone do anything else more important. My head felt heavy, dull, and entirely useless. I felt drunk or hangover. My feet meandered about. No rhyme or reason to anything. I eventually found myself stumbling through the shopping district on 6th. What did Dexter say to me yesterday? Have I seen Maria yet? What did that have to do with that? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. He was holding a music box in his hand. There's no acquaintance that he had come to visit. An inpatient at the hospital. So that was a present. The more I tried retracing the events of yesterday, the more I felt myself floundering. At the present. Huh. Now that caught my attention. I started thinking, hey, why not get Law something? You know, as an apology for getting her sick. Come to think of it, she and I had gone shopping so many times over the month, but I didn't remember ever having bought anything for her. So I started shopping by various shops to see what they had. Now there were lots of cute things that girl would like all over the shop, but I didn't really know which one I would really like. Just then, I saw some brilliantly colored hair ribbons in the Windows display, and remembered Irina. Ribbon, hair, Law. A ribbon, huh? Just a ribbon! She might just like something like this. Although buying it was sure to be an embarrassing experience. Well, better get to it, boy. Are you man or are you schnitzel? Is there something I can help you with, sir? The sales clerk said to me when she saw me wandering around aimlessly through the shop. Yes. I found what I'm looking for, but I'm not sure about what color I should get. Oh, a ribbon? That's a wonderful choice, sir. It'll make a wonderful gift. I know she'll love it. That's nice, I guess. I was too busy trying to remember which color she'd worn that night to answer the clerk more fully. You'd think I'd be able to recall this at the moment's notice, but I found myself completely blanking on this one. How about red, sir? That's a popular choice. Or perhaps pink and blue. And then there's always yellow for the girl who really wants to stand out. The clerk was obviously putting on her best sales pitch, but I didn't hear what she was saying. Something very, very odd was going on right now. I couldn't get a grip on it. Yep. You're starting it. I'm pretty selfish, trust me. It's not the answer. Sorry about that. Yep. And if you don't mind me asking, what color is her hair, sir? Huh? Her hair, what color is it? You know, like black or red. After all, some colors match, some don't. I guess so. Her hair color. Just color, what color was that? I couldn't remember. Now the story is starting to get to it. It's starting to get to the core of its course. Sir, the clerk sounded so far away. And my head was such a mess right now that I couldn't have answered even if I wanted to. I'm sorry. I'll be back soon. And I managed to stumble out of the store. I picked up my pace. I had to get to the station as soon as I could. And from there, onto home. But everything seemed to move in slow motion. My feet, the streets, the world around me. I got onto the trolley. I almost fell asleep several times en route to 8. I cursed myself every time that happened. When the trolley finally stopped at 8, I jumped off and broke into a run up the hill. Snow burst from the sky. Really, the snow? Everything went white. It was hard to see in front of me. I squinted. Everything was still there. The streets, the lamps, the houses, the people, everything but my footsteps. With every disappearing footstep I took, I could feel something precious inside me disappearing as well. The snow was falling. It was falling just like this. On that day, a month ago. Right. I was walking out aimlessly this road. Kept going until I hit the 9th intersection. Took the turn, and straight through a grove of trees and eventually reached an old crumbling house. I found a kitten there at the door. The kitten was so cute that I what? A kitten? You're losing it. My name is La. Don't mind me, I'll be fine. I see, you're a good man. No. Yep, you're starting. I met a girl there. A girl who was standing there in the snow, tears running down her face. You're losing it. What was her name again? I could not remember. No, not just her name. What were her mannerisms? How did she get mad when I teased her? How sweet and gentle was she? How warm was her smile? All gone. It was wrenching. I reached out to grab what I could. Fragments, scraps, anything. But my hands were weak, too weak, and my mind was too blank. We were at that stage now. I had no more strength left in me when I reached the door. I felt like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. All I wanted to do was to sleep. Forever. By the time I unlocked the door and stumbled aside, I was moving like a beggar through mud. There was a half-drunk cup of milk and a burgundy-colored binder on the table. I approached slowly, each footstep harder to take than the one before it. By the time I got to the edge of the table, I had a splitting headache, so bad that I went to my knees. The cup and the table slipped and fell from their places. I heard a loud tinkling, so the cup had shattered to pieces. Pages from the binder flew through the air, landing every which way on the floor around me. The milk was soaking through the pages. There were words, sentences, paragraphs, all written in a neat and pretty cursive script. Everything was still legible, and so I read. The nominal sides admit histories and physicals, progress notes, discharge summaries, patience. The word black iris kept appearing everywhere. What could that mean? I was thinking about this when my head burst with pain so exquisite that I almost closed my eyes. I collapsed onto the floor. Everything went dark. I was getting so sleepy. I could feel my eyelids dropping. I knew. Somehow I knew if I just closed my eyes, all this pain would disappear. And I also knew that this was probably for the best. If you were your teacher, I'd be really happy if you came to visit. Okay, next time when we get the chance, I hope. I'm sorry, Black Iris. I'm so sorry. I blinked. Things were blurry, but I could see that someone was there. A girl. Someone I thought I knew. Maybe. When she saw me, she broke into a run. She skilled to a halt before she'd cover herself half the distance between us. Then something strange happened. She hesitated for a moment. She pursed her lips. She took a step forward. Another. And another. I knew it. See? See that? She knew, she knows, she's done this. She's the reason for all this. No, not that one. She sat on the floor next to me. She gently cradled my head and let it sit on her lap. And then she started. Slowly, as if I would break if she went any faster. Slowly, as if I would break if she went any faster, brushing the snow out of my hair. You should sleep a bit. It'll make things easier when you wake. I knew her. It had to be. But how come? How come I couldn't remember a thing? She continued brushing my hair. Now she was singing softly into my ears. I knew this song. I had never heard it sung so lovingly. This soft voice. These warm hands. I completely limp. I had no more strength. I didn't care. I wasn't going to sleep. Not until I remembered who she was. Remember, damn it. I reached out. I felt something. Sharp fragments of glass. Good. I took them up and squeezed as hard as I could. I felt the glass digging into my palm. I was losing blood, but I was gaining consciousness. La. I finally managed. Her eyes narrowed. Her mouth shaped into a smile. It's okay. I'm right here. So don't be afraid. The dollar. Phenomenon on the sides. Psychic corrosion. Don't you get scared too? Oh, good. It's so fast. Get away from me. Ah, not again! I could see clearly now. La wasn't my patient this time. I was hers. Yep. We're finally at that truth. This girl removed the psychic corrosion inside me. Every last trace of it. Every last trace. That is, except for its name. La. I knew her. Yes. I met her a month ago, outside of this house. But that wasn't for the first time. Back then. She was the cat. A cat of the rain where the story ends. A cat in the rain, sorry. Cat of the rain. What the hell, my English? Oops, I will hide this here. I'll stop right there, so. I know it will be a little bit short, but I'd rather end it at that note, because now it's very, how do you call that? Getting into the heart of it, and I want to save that part to the next one, so. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it and want to see the next part, or if you want to see the parts that I've done in the last few episodes, just simply wave around like a saucer and hit the like button and the subscribe button to search them on my channel. It'll be on the playlist, I promise. I really promise. So, until then, this is Natnarf signing off.